so anyone talk about the linear search, let's talk about the linear search, right?
Well, really, I was just missing the fact that there was a target that was inputted into the method header, so I was wondering where you were actually getting the search value.
So the idea here is we have an array of numbers. They don't have to be sorted. We just have an array of numbers. And we're just going to walk through that array of numbers looking for a target. And the moment we hit the first target, if there's multiple numbers of the same target, it's going to be the first one we hit. The moment we hit the first target, we're going to return the index value of where it's at. So in this case, presuming our target is a 40, the moment we would hit that, right, 10 equal to 40, nope, 20 equal to 40, nope, 30 equal to 40, nope, 40 equal to 40, yep, we would return the 3 to indicate it is at index 3 in the array. If we get all the way through the array, say we're looking for 55, we get all the way through the array, and it doesn't exist in the array, then we're going to return a -1, indicating it was not found in the array. Okay? This is very similar to what you have to do on your homework. For this,
Why are we searching for like a specific object?
except for you have a T. T is a type that is any kind of object. So you will not be able to use the equality operator. You'll need to use the dot equals method. Okay? But it's essentially the exact same code. In this case, I provided everything for you. You just need to write the code inside there. You do not need to worry about what T is, other than the fact that it is an object-based type. Okay? As long as it is a T which is a well-formed proper class, will always have an equals method and a hash code method, right? Okay? Questions? Go ahead, Kyle.
So we'd be writing like if array sub x is equal to t, then we return.
No, not T, target.
Target.
T is just the type. T stands for type, so substitute car or address or stock or whatever the hell our current assignment is.
Wouldn't have to
Right?
erase sub x dot equals and
What's that?
I didn't enter the dot equals, I just did
Other questions?
So can you do the same for loop you did in the board for this or no?
Yeah, exactly.
Just for the if
Just an
statement, it
index
would be
counter, right?
dot equals instead of being
What? Yeah, instead of equals, it's dot equals. I said that twice now. Instead of equals, it's dot equals. There's 3 times. Want me to go on?
One more time.
Instead of equals, it's dot equals. Well, I guarantee, even though I've said it 4 times, somebody will still email me and say, I don't understand why it's not working. Right. Probably like Sydney. Or you volunteering to email me to say it's not
I mean, I
working.
can do that too if you'd like. So are we supposed to, is T just gonna like stay there and basically be a bit?
T is synonymous with whatever type you're coming in. Car.
So we don't have to manually
Correct.
put that in, okay.
Correct. Just know that T is a class that is object-based and therefore it has an equals method. That's all you need to know. T is what we call the generic. So we can use this for any object-based type as long as it has an equals method, we'll be fine.
Can we go over fill array by any chance?
No. Okay, so we all noticed that Stu got smart and he put in here what you have to write, right? Since none of you actually read the main I give you, I'm now trying to make it so you read the main I give you and it says you write. Because I didn't give you a PDF other than what's the name of the turn-in file and give me an output file, okay? So I'm trying to force you to actually look at my code. So you have to write a fill array method. You have to write a print array method. Remember, system.out is a print stream object, right? So system.out is a print stream object. So that header obviously is going to look like this. It's already in array utils, right? Didn't I give you array utils, right? So here it is, array utils. So the print stream object, system.out in this case is synonymous with fout. So you're not going to say fout.out.println, you're just going to say fout.println or fout.print. Okay? Because fout is an alias for system.out. just a different way to call system.out.
Okay.
Okay? So don't email me and say, it doesn't work when I do fout.out.println. Yeah, no shit, because I said it wasn't gonna work, right? Get a little sassy towards the end of the quarter if you haven't quite noticed. More sassy than I normally am.
Making a list of things I'm gonna email you.
That's fine. Yes, there we go. Thank you, appreciate that.
Would the print array be like any other print array?
Just like every other freaking print array we've ever written in our life. Square bracket, item, comma, item, dot, 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 item, square bracket.
So a good copy and paste from our old code will do.
Okay, so we just talked about print array. We'll talk about fill array in a sec, Kyle. Here, okay, so JGrasp is a little wonky. I'm gonna just tell you this right now.
Oh, really?
That just hurts. It's like a knife, right in the, right. Little piece of me just died inside more. Here's what happens. So I am passing in a command line argument. That command line argument is going to be typed in right here under run arguments. Okay? So when I do this, if you don't see the run arguments, you're going to come here to build, and you're going to check the box that says run arguments. Okay? You're going to type in here, what's the name of our input file? Words.txt, input.txt?
I think it's input.txt. I think.
Input.txt. Okay? When you run your program, it may or may not say array index out of bounds exception, like it did right there. Okay? Oh, yeah, well, that's true. Okay. It crashed on the selection sort. Every now and then, what happens is by the time it actually runs, it loses, and you can only do this on main, by the way. So you got to put this in main, and notice that it went away. So every time you run this, main, thank you. Every time you run this, that's method, sorry, with main.
The third one.
There we go. So on main, it should always be up here. But every now and then, it's going to tell you index out of bounds exception, array index out of bounds exception for the param 0. Just run it again. Okay? There's a little bit of a timing issue that's a known issue in JGrasp, that by the time the virtual machine spins up and reads the command line argument, it's already into the code. It's getting a null instead of getting input.txt.
Okay.
You just run it again, you'll be fine. So please, for the love of whatever deity you may or may not believe in, don't email me. That's the third thing today, right? So somebody's keeping a list of all the shit that Sydney's gonna email me about later on. Right, Sydney, you're keeping this list? Okay, good. What I want you to do though, is to distribute it so the entire class all emails me. But not at the same time. I need them staggered like 5 minutes apart.
I'll head it out, don't worry.
Don't even think about it, Nate. Don't even freaking think about it. Tom back there has already thought about it. He's probably already emailed me. I just don't have my email
No, I
open.
asked you on Discord and you told me.
Okay, so that's how you do this open input file. I provided this code, but you have to put the name of the input file in here. Garrett.
Would you do this in Eclipse, or do you even have to?
This is what he said.
There is a way to do it in Eclipse, and I don't remember how to do it off the top of my head, but why are you using Eclipse?
Because it's better.
It is not, actually. The debugger in JGrasp is 1,000 times better than the debugger in Eclipse. And where you're at right now, Eclipse is actually more of a nightmare. Trust me, I taught it with Eclipse last quarter. It was a nightmare. It was horrible, right? You're not even really ready for Eclipse in 2.11, and usually we transition you to Eclipse in 2.11, but whatever, don't care. I don't care, I told you at the beginning, I don't care what the IDE is. So we got fill array we got to talk about. You got to add something into the array. I presume you know how to do that. You got to do linear search, we already talked about. You got to remove something from the array. You should know how to do that. Right? Because we did it on the last one, didn't we?
We've done it before.
We've done it before somewhere along the way, right?
Not with offense.
Well, it's the same game though. Equals or whatever, and that's what you remove. Okay? So if you haven't quite figured out, this is a lot about the equals and hash code and compare to and all that stuff in this class. So let's talk about fill array. So let's look at input.txt. So input.txt, there are 2 lines for a person. Okay, there are 2 lines for a person. Now, notice for an author, I should say. Notice that the author has 3 data members. Okay, 2 strings, 3 strings. Okay, 3 strings. So there are 2 lines for 3 data members. How's that work? Well, you're going to have to take the first line for the record, Stu Steiner in this case, and break it apart. But note, there are like 4 names on one line. Look at line 9. Okay?
Billy Bob Glenkerson. I'm in that one.
What's that?
I like the Glenkerson.
Alex Sue Solvig Boyer. Actually, I made that out of 2 different names in my family, but my daughter's actual legal name is Alexandra Petra Solvig Steiner. Okay? And why that is my wife's mother was Norwegian, straight off the boat Norwegian. I mean, not like living in Canada, US, off the boat, an immigrant. Her name was Solvig. We wanted to really name my daughter after her grandmother, but my daughter's name would have been Alexandra Solvig Steiner, and her initials would have been So we threw in the name Petra, who is surely my wife's great-grandmother, who didn't come off the boat. She lived in Norway, sent her daughter on the boat to the U.S. We're talking 1920s, type of thing. Immigration through Ellis Island, done all the genealogy. It's actually really fascinating. Anyway, so we named my daughter Alexandra Petra Solvig Steiner because I didn't want her initials to be ass. Now it's funny, but when you're a kid, like 8 years old, especially a female, you don't want the initials of ass. Trust me on that one, right? What's your middle name, Sydney?
Medi.
Medi?
Yeah, like Maddie.
Medi. Like Medidata. So you're SMS,
Yep.
right? I always wish my middle name were Franken. Stu Frankensteiner. So freaking cool, right?
You could always change it.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Going to the courts to change your middle name is not worth it. I could see if it was my first name, but yeah. No. Okay, so we are going to have to read in 2 lines, and you're going to have to break up this line. Now, what are we going to do about this? So Alex Sue will be the first name, Solvig Boyer will be the last name. Okay? So you're going to have to figure out how to take Sydney's ex-husband, Billy Bob Glunkerson, and break that into Billy Bob for the first name and Glunkerson for the last name. Okay? So if there are more than 2 names, the first 2 will be the first name and the remaining names will be the last name. Okay? Everybody got that?
Yeah.
Another thing not to email me about. Okay, so what do we have to do? 4 now? Okay, skip track. Okay. So, what do we know coming from Maine when we look at Maine here? What do we know about the method fill array? Okay. Based on this method call on line 32, what are the things we know about fill array?
Yeah, we have a very total are used in the vast
Okay, so what does that mean to me though? You're correct, and I can read that we're passing infinite total, but what does that actually mean?
And putting a file in that there is a,
Fin's a file pointer, and total is what?
presumably an int that determines the length of the array.
The length of the array, right? The number of items that are in the file that we're going to put into the array. Total represents the number of records in the file. Okay? And if you want to look at my count record, you can. You can look at my count records and see that it returns the number of records in this file. So in this case, the number of records are, there's an extra carriage return, I think you probably put me, but the number of records are 6. Okay? There are 6 authors with whatever number of publishers, right? There are 6 author objects in this array. Each 2 lines is an author object. 1 author, 2 authors, 3 authors, 4 authors, 5 authors, 6 authors. Okay? So I'm going to have to build an array of author objects that are 6 in size. Okay? So what does fill array look like? Well, I'm not going to write the whole method header up there because you got the method header right here. Okay? So we know though that we need to build an author array, right? So author, square brackets array, gets new author total. Okay? What did I just do there? What do I have there? Obviously I have an array, but it is an array of what? 2, 4, 6. It's an array of what? Not author objects, author references. Okay? Each one of those references will point to a new author object. Okay? So somewhere in this freaking for loop that we're going to write, we need to say new author and call the constructor of the author class. Okay? We're okay with that? So next, for loop, right? Okay. X equals 0, x is less than array dot length, x plus plus. Okay? Read the name with next line. Don't try and next this, because sometimes next will work, but you don't know how many items are on that line. You just know that the whole name is on that line, so use the next line to read the line. Okay? Read the publisher with next line. Okay? So what do I know at that blue line I just put right there? Using this input file here, what do I know?
You know the names in the
I
publisher?
have in the name Stu Steiner, Stu space Steiner, and I have in the publisher self. Okay? Now what do I need to do? Go ahead, Jacob.
Can you split up that name too first?
I need to split up the name Stu, okay? Easiest way to split up the name Stu Steiner or any name is to split based on the space for the name. Okay? I'm presuming you did something like string name gets fin.next line for that, right? String space name gets the assignment operator fin.next line. Okay? That gives me Stu Steiner. If I do a name.split on the space, what I get out of that then is, in this case I get Stu here and Steiner here. Okay? In the case of Alexandra, what is it?
Sue Solvig Boyer.
Alex Sue Solvig Boyer. We get Alex, we get Sue, we get Solvig, and we get Boyer. Okay? Do I know how many items are in each one of those? By saying res.length tells me 2 or 4 in this case, right? Presuming I did a split and stored it in something like res, right? String, square brackets, res, get, blah, 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 right? Now this is not the correct code. So for the love of God, do not type this in and email me, 5, that says this doesn't work. Yeah, no shit, it doesn't work. I am not writing the solution for you. I'm telling you how to get to the solution. Okay? Savannah's keeping track of all these. I know she's going to email me. Also, Sydney and Savannah, the S names in the room. How many other people have S names in the room? And? Yes. Scott, got it. Yes. Okay? So, out of that, res is going to tell me the length is 2, or res is going to tell me the length is 4. So somehow I'm going to have to take this and say, okay, the length is only 2, so I need to just, that's the first name, that's the last name. Or the res is length dot 4 is 4 here, so that's the first name, and that's the last name. Okay? I'm going to presume somewhere along the way you declare a string called first. That's going to have the first name in it, and you have a string called last. That's going to have the combined last names in it. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Everybody tracking with what I'm doing? So somewhere along the way you split that, and then you took the string first and said in this case it's Alex Sue, and in this case it's Stu. And you took the name last, in this case you said it's Steiner, in this case you said it's Solvig Boyer. Okay? So out of that whole combination of whatever the heck you're going to do to get them to work properly, you're gonna have, at this juncture, a first name, which is gonna be the combined first names, a last name, which is gonna be the combined last names, and a publisher, which is gonna be the publisher that you read in. Right? Everybody okay with that? So now what do I need to do? We already read the publisher. We read, then we start messing, right? Always read, and then start messing. So we got the publisher, we got the first name, we got the last name. Now we just need to shove that into the array. By saying, and I'm writing this so Aiden can't read it. How am I doing? You are.
Wonderfully, considering that I'm looking at my notes and not the board.
Array sum x gets new author, and then whatever the constructor takes. I believe it takes last, comma, first, comma, publisher. At the end of that, for loop, which is there, we're going to return array. Aaron, what's that look for?
Oh, I'm just thinking, like,
Stop, because the steam is coming out of your ears.
Oh, I'm not pissed. I'm
It's
just
obstructing
thinking.
Emily's view. The smoke from the wheels turning are coming out of your
Yeah. I'm just curious, like, it might be blatantly obvious, so I apologize ahead of time. So in the beginning of the for loop, it's we're reading the name with fin.nextLine, but when we add it to the author array, it's last, first, and publisher.
Correct, because we took that name, Stu Steiner, or
split it?
Alex Sue Solvig Boyer, and broke it up into a first name and a last name, a first name and a last name.
Okay.
And the constructor clearly states that it's last name first name second, publisher third.
Okay.
I think. I don't remember. Look, author. Okay. Yes. Last name, first name, publisher. Ian, what's up?
He's wondering where we're assigning the publisher.
Because I get that we're reading it, but do we immediately assign it within the for loop?
You would assign a string publisher gets fin.nextLine.
Okay, so we immediately assign it.
Yeah. Because it's the only thing you're reading out of the file for the publisher, right?
Actually, my brain just realized what I was hitching, and that was really dumb. You're wrong.
No, it was actually a good question.
No,
It
I'm
was a
saying
good
where
question.
I was hitching was dumb. The question itself may not have been.
Oh, trust me, if the question was dumb, I would have just closed.
I would ask that you always do. If referred to over the question.
Apparently not, because something just like that, but anyway.
Well, I said I do. I can't speak for other people. Just because other people are great at self-management. I don't know.
Yes, dear.
So, yeah, I'm so clueless how that differentiation thing works. Still clueless about it. Seriously.
Go ahead.
So reading the file inside that for loop, it's gonna read the first line, read the second line, and then it's gonna basically start
Build an
again.
author object after we do some magic.
And then run through it
And
again.
then come back through, read the next
Read the
line, and the
third
next
line,
line, build
fourth
an
line.
author object, read the next line, the next line, build an author.
I was making I was using modularity.
Other questions? All really good questions. All very helpful questions.
Are we assuming that the input file is like
Well formed.
format?
Well formed, yeah. So, I don't know if I hit an extra carriage return while I was doing crap or not, but there should only be one carriage return down here. So if there's like 5, just delete them, right? There should be a carriage return at the end of that line, and then the cursor should be sitting right there. There's actually no carriage return on that line, it's just an empty line. Okay, that's the end of file marker. Other questions? Yeah, so well-formed file. I'm not playing tricks with that. It's about filling the array, doing a little bit of stuff with search utils, doing a little bit of stuff with printing the array, in array utils, right, just printing a generic array, because that's what I'm trying to get you to do. Again, and if you look in the array utils here, we see that, again, we have T. T is just an object base, meaning we know it's gonna have a two string. We're just gonna print it out because it's gonna have a two string. And that two string is gonna get called beyond the screen. We don't care what T is. It has nothing, the code in here has nothing to do with T, it has everything to do with array. Right, and array.length. Kyle.
I know there's like a read author method. Would that be just using like the, yeah.
So that's a great question, Kyle. So if we come over here to read author, there's a method that you have to ask the user, what's the author? And you're gonna build an author object. So what's the author name? What's the author first name? What's the author last name? Who is the author publisher? You're gonna read in those three pieces of information. Make sure you trim them as three separate read lines. Okay? What was the author's first name? Stu, enter. What was the author's last name? Steiner, enter. Who was the author's publisher? Self, enter. You put those together to build an author object, and then you return that author object. Okay? So you're building a standalone author object here that you're going to ultimately pass to, oh look, the linear search method to see if that author is in the array. Yes?
Are we in the happy part of Stu land where case doesn't matter for the file in? Or for the
yeah,
input?
well, file name is always case. I can't deal with that, right? But
And for what you were just
I
explaining?
believe in the author class.
Okay, I see it.
Doesn't it say something about case ignoring case?
Yep,
yeah.
right there.
Right there.
Yeah, so you can use equals ignore case at the string class.
Okay.
Yes, Gary?
So like, would there be a way to convert the file? Would you convert like the name that you would read from the file when you go to call it as a string with next line? And you could like then take that whole string and move it to lowercase? This is just like a hypothetical.
You can do that too if you wanted to. I don't care enough, right? Or you could just use equals ignore case of the class. But how you build your author object, I don't give a shit. As long as it's last name, first name, and publisher. Right? So if you want Stu Steiner to be all lowercase, or you want to be screaming, Stu Steiner! Like that, either way, I don't care. Right? Print stream, one more time. Okay? So in the array utils, this is synonymous, it's an alias for system.out. So you're literally just gonna say fout.print or fout.println and do what you need to do. Because it's gonna be behind the scenes system.out.println or system.out.print, whatever. Fout is just an alias to a print stream object. Just another reference. Yes, Jake?
So what's the purpose of passing?
Because now I have one method that I can print to a file, or I can print to a string. Because a print stream object is how we also print to the file.
Okay.
Right? So now I have a generic method called printArray that takes any kind of class, as long as that class has a two-string, and I'm guaranteed it has a two-string because there's a two-string in object,
Yeah.
and I can now print either to the screen or to the file with a single method. Other questions? Yes, Tom?
So what you were just explaining,
I can't hear you, Tom, sorry.
sorry, so what you were just explaining how that can handle print stream object, is that the same how, like the T in front of the linear search method, like that could handle any array type?
That's correct, yeah. So I'm teaching you the correct way to do things now. Instead of repeating code over and over and over again, we're gonna start writing generic methods that can take any object type and any print stream object and do with it what we need to do with it. So we have to write this freaking thing one time, and then on March 16th I can test you on it, and you just don't remember shit that you did because you wrote it one time, and we used it a bunch of other times. That's how I roll, man. Paul, what day are you coming? It's usually Fridays, because I'm trying to figure out what day I want to do my evals, and I don't want you to know. Other questions? We're good on the homework? It's due tomorrow, correct? Yes, Tony?
When
What do we return when what?
When all the parameters are equal.
What do you think you return?
That's why I'm asking. Okay.
It returns
Because compared to is guaranteed to be what, Tony?
Something.
Return a value less than 0, greater than 0, or
0.
equal to 0. So if they're the same, it's a 0. Why am I asking things? Why is asking back? Other questions? Do I need to go back to car, or do we want to just go? Your choice.
Go.
Just go? Nice answer.
I mean,
Okay, do we want to just go and start emailing me in like 10 minutes? Is that what we want to do? Okay.
Yeah. They definitely, the entire building is.
We're moving on tomorrow. Okay? I don't know if you noticed here in Canvas. I don't know if you noticed in Canvas, but this right there, that's coming tomorrow.
You're right.
Compare it.
Hey, you gotta.
Yeah.